third Q&A. It is May 3rd, and I wanted to introduce you guys to, and not to make him blush this time, Prometheus. He's the one of the lead designs, and he is a gentleman and a scholar to allow us to have these times for the Q&A. So I appreciate all your questions, and we'll get some answers out to you. So today what we're going to be tackling is politics, progression, and sieges. Obviously, sieges will intertwine with some PvP conversations. So if you have some questions on that, go ahead and you can submit them below, and we'll get those at the end of more of an AMA. But for now, let's hand it off to Prometheus. And welcome. How are you today?
Fine, doing great. And I love doing this Q&A. So it's the best moment of the evening after the pizza. Or maybe
pizza's important.
On par with the pizza.
Well, listen, it's from an Italian saying that it's on par with pizza. It means a lot, and thank you.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Well, great. So let's start off with politics. One of the first questions that we have that weren't answered at the last Q&A, because there was so much more that we could have done and so much longer that we could have went on that, because there is so much obviously to cover when it comes to player cities, is politics as a whole. So we'll dive in with the first question. It says, will cities be ruled by dictatorship or democracy?
Yeah, so there was a big misunderstanding, I think, in the last Q&A that generated quite some confusion, particularly in the developer forums and among the community of governors and aristocrats and other people who purchased the high-tier Kickstarter pledges and so on. So we got rid of the concept of free cities and guild cities, as it used to be in the design feature spotlight we put out during our Kickstarter. But that doesn't mean that all cities must use a democratic rule, right? So if you want to create something that is closer to what once used to be called a guild city, you as a governor can choose authoritarian government and then pledge your loyalty to a certain guild, right? Declare yourself subject of a specific guild. And basically what you do is you've created what used to be called a guild city, without actually being called that way anymore. But conceptually it's the same thing. So it's still possible to avoid the whole political process with elections and so on. I mean, consider that pretty much nobody or almost nobody tried to do politics this way. I mean, with elections in a game, in an MMO, because that usually doesn't work very well. And even in Fracture, there's going to be a thing, particularly for Arboreus, but it's still more of an experiment than that we're making. And we expect that definitely not to be the norm. I mean, we expect that most governors will choose an authoritarian role and will just create guild cities that have a specific guild as citizens or groups of guilds as citizens, but we'll skip the whole elections and whatnot, right?
Okay, that's actually really good. I like that different thought process. Now, this one, I actually really like this question. It's one that I wish I would have thought of myself, but it says, can crimes be committed in cities? And if so, how will the governors or the government handle that crime in a city?
Yeah, so basically the governor can choose whether the city is open to PvP or not. Now, being open to PvP means, of course, that the criminal system of Syndesia, if it's on Syndesia, otherwise nothing on Tartaros, still applies to the city, to the people in the city. So if you are an evil player and you attack a good player, you can do it, but then you become a murderer and so on. And the whole criminal system, as explained in the feature spotlight that we released, which is coming, by the way, pretty soon, like during alpha, the criminal system will be implemented eventually. So the whole thing still applies. We actually expect most of the governors will choose to remove PvP in their city, and that's obviously because that even if you're just a regular citizen who likes PvP a lot, but living in a city with PvP enabled is a mess. I mean, you cannot do anything. You can be killed anytime while you're moving resources to take care of the maintenance of a building or building a new NPC shop or whatever you're doing. It's having PvP turned on is pretty crazy, right? It just doesn't work.
Takes away from the fun.
So that's a possibility, but we expect that most players, most governors and citizens will choose to have their city run their city without PvP, which means that in the very moment you enter the city area, you're not able to attack other players unless it's during a siege, but that's a whole different story.
Okay, that's fair. I like that actually. The fact that you can turn it on and turn it off depending on where you're at and what planet. That's actually pretty cool. Now, there's a second follow-up, which is kind of similar. It says, what will we get by controlling a city? So, I'd like to kind of add a little end to that if we can. So by controlling a city, what do we get as a population? But also, what does a governor get by controlling a city? So it's kind of a two-part question that I sort of invented right there on the spot for you. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So first of all, let me bring up the usual map, which is on our forums.
Mm-hmm.
In the town planning section. By the way, if you play Fractured, if you want to plan your town, there's a forum section here just for that.
Oh, that's right.
So
yep. Sections and rules.
Up the picture. All right. This is a very rough, very ugly picture straight from our design documents. So it's obviously not beautiful. But this is the map of Mir. This is 60 square kilometers. Is the map that you used to play on if you played Fractured already. Mm-hmm. And these are the actual city spots, 110, 120 more or less, 25, 30 large ones, and about 90 small ones, and all the resource nodes. So that's so the answer to the question is pretty much here in this map. You want to control the city, well, other than creating buildings that allow you to craft high quality goods. So you have to create the buildings, you have to upgrade them, create the crafting stations over and over to get the high quality items. Mm-hmm. But controlling the city means means having the possibility to control all the hotspots that are next to the city. So, for example, let's look at the center of the map. At the center, a little to the left, you see there's an area that has 4 gold mines. Mm-hmm. And those are pretty rare, of course, because it's gold, and they can be controlled by the cities that are next to them and nothing else. So conquering a city or having a specific city means having access to different resources. And they're all valuable in their own way, but of course you might want to have a gold mine instead of a clay mine. So that would make sense, right? So there are some cities that are going to be obviously more contended, and some others that are going to be less interesting and maybe left for smaller guilds or less competitive guilds and groups of players. But yeah, that's what you want from a city. And as a governor, I mean, why you want to be a governor? Well, you have access to the whole bank account of the city and the management of the city. But so you can actually steal from the city if you want as a governor. I'm not suggesting that a governor should do that, but you could. But well, I guess you want to become a governor for the same reason why you want to become a mayor in real life. I don't know. It can be to do good, or it can be because you love power. I don't know, that you find the reasons.
Hopefully to help, right?
Yeah, hopefully as well, but
purpose. Yeah.
Typically not, but hopefully yes.
So we'll add that up on below for you guys for YouTube, so you can get a greater look at it. And as he's explaining it, we'll zoom in and zoom out. So if you didn't get that link or you weren't able to make it, we'll have that on there. Very nice. Well, I like the fact that the power that's going to be there, it actually is going to make you want to trust who you're deciding to ally with. And I guess those who lead better will have better fortified cities with the communities and so forth. So, I've got a couple people that I've been talking to a little bit about city design and guild design and how we're going to kind of assimilate into the game with politics being such a great spoke on the wheel of what the game is, and how the integrity of politics are so important because of the player ran city. So it's really nice to see that this is really starting to kind of flush out and knowing that there are so many cities, large player cities and small player cities, is really nice to see too for the smaller guilds.
Yeah, consider that this map is the map of Mir, which is one of the three continents of Synthesia, which is one of the three continents of, or one of the three planets of the solar system, right? Together with Tartarus and Arboreus. So if in total it's going to be about 1,000 cities, so there's a lot.
And then on top of that, you have your housing for personnel, personal reasons and stuff. So really nice. Well, that's good. That's actually amazing. Looking at it now and going, oh, there's a dock too, huh? So seaports
for fast travel from one dock to the other.
That's actually really cool. Well, to build on that, I guess a follow-up question, if you will, being able to turn PvP and PvP off, knowing that if you have a fast travel dock that you're controlling, and you wanted to put PvP on there to give risk versus reward for fast travel, how do you foresee that actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see exactly if we are going to allow for PvP just everywhere. But in case that there's a city, a dock city with PvP turned on, we will obviously make it very clear before traveling, right? So when you see the list of cities where you can travel to, you will see whether it's whether it has PvP enabled or not. And I guess people will likely choose to avoid that city entirely and go to the next one.
Right. Now, being that there's going to be fast travel, is that more of, do you foresee it being actual old school EverQuest where you got on a boat, you had to go through zones, or is it true fast travel, point, click, and there you go?
Point, click, and there you go.
Okay. Now, do you have, by chance, the opportunity to put boat travel or ships in later on? Because you did, we did hit the Kickstarter goal for fishing. So there's nothing like fishing on a boat. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm not excluding that in general, but for now, it's not really on the map. I mean, definitely not before full release.
Okay, and that's understandable. And most games are like that. Get the core fundamentals, and then you add the extra fluff later. So this next question is pretty long, so forgive me on this one. It says, is it going to be possible for cities to grant access to public bridges, buildings such as advanced crafting stations to non-citizens, and if so, will that work in terms of non-citizens providing taxes, fees, or goods and compensations for usage?
So in general, there are two types of crafting stations. So far, you've only seen, well, actually three types. So far, you've only seen a couple, which are the crafting stations where you craft instantaneously, and the ones that take time, like the Italian tap, right? You put the hides in there, and you get the leather after 8 hours, 16 hours. You get the idea. There's also going to be crafting stations that use heavy materials, so they have an internal inventory. So you drop the heavy material, and then you craft the items. For example, let's say crafting bows and shields, high level stuff, not the primitive stuff, is going to require boards. So you have a crafting station that turns logs into boards. Boards are still a heavy item, and then those boards are used by the crafting stations to create bows and shields. Same for blacksmithing, of course, all the metals, it's all heavy materials. And it will not be possible for people outside of the city to use those crafting stations because, well, you can imagine, right? Somebody comes and just empties out the inventory of the guild. Plus, we have a whole progression system, right? So if you manage to get those crafting stations going, which is already a thing, and then you even leveling the model, which is even harder, we want only the people of that city to be able to produce those kind of items. And if they want to be generous and sell them for a very low price after producing them, they can totally do that. But it's only the people in the guild, so in the city, that are able to craft them. While instead, if the crafting station just requires inventory items and craft things immediately, like the flashing beam or the workbench, that's open to everybody. That can be open to everybody, but well, actually, I guess by default it's going to be open to everybody. But like in the starting town, But those, you make primitive items in those, quick items in those, so there's no balancing issue. Also, I would like to add to that, it's not like every citizen of the city will be able to access those crafting stations. So you will have to give citizen a specific role, let's say artisan role or craftsman role. We'll see how we want to call them. And only the citizens that have access to that role will be able to actually use those crafting stations. Because again, maybe you have a city with which doesn't belong to the same guild, where you have maybe 100 people, 200 people living in it. Maybe you just want only a subset to be able to actually access all those resources inside of the warehouses and the crafting stations, these precious heavy materials. Okay.
That makes sense. I like that. Now,
Yeah.
so there's another kind of, I think, is offshoot question. It says, what happens when a player quits the game that's running a city? So if a governor decides to say, you know what, I'm done, I'm going to take a break, or I have quite a few military people that I'm friends with that they'll go off on duty, or they'll go out on a tour real quick, say for a week or two at a time. Are there going to be any kind of subset roles that can take over that for short time? And if there is a long term, what do we do to replace that governor?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long-term thing, and I mean, the governor can always give up his role and give it to someone else. Okay. The role of vice governors exists, so the vice governor basically has the same powers as the governor, just is not able to depose the governor, obviously. So I mean, if you just have to go on vacation for 2 weeks or even a month, you can find somebody that does everything you can do. A vice governor, you can appoint him or her, and that's it. If instead the governor just quits and becomes inactive, well, it depends. I mean, there can be elections. If it's a free city, if it's a city pledged to a certain guild, the guild master can choose a new governor.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
There are ways.
So definitely backup systems to protect the integrity of the systems. Okay. And if you were to, you've kind of answered this already, but let's say everything was fine, but there starts to be dissension in the ranks. What do we look at as how do we replace that person? So if we're having someone that becomes a tyrant and you're like, we've got to get out of here, or we're gonna have to move our city. What do we do? How do we handle dethroning the government?
Well, if the guy has an authoritarian rule, there isn't much you can do. I mean, if you chose to be there, you knew how things were working, right? So you chose a place where the governor could not be kicked out by vote.
Okay.
So if you chose to live there, the only option you really have is leave, take all your goods, and just leave the city. And it's a problem if you leave the city, because you're putting the city in trouble, because we're going to see that with, I guess, next with the city progression. But if you leave the city can derank. And if you get rid of your plots, that is also going to lose prestige. So there's you can hurt the city by leaving it. So if half of the city decides to leave, all of a sudden and just go create a new city somewhere else, start a new city. Okay. Then the city is going to lose a lot from that.
So there's policies already built in for tyranny. Basically, it'll handle itself in essence.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can choose that.
Because the governor, it sounds to me like you've made a role where the governor is needed as much as the people are needed. There's the equality built into this type of system.
The governor is totally needed, and he can appoint, can give powers to other people too. Okay. Doesn't have to do everything by him or herself, but yeah, you totally need a governor in a city. I mean, people, planning for the city, mm-hmm. and managing the whole progression, which we're going to talk about soon. Of course, you need it.
Now, another follow-up on that would be, where does city finances from taxes go, and who has access to them? Along with, what can those taxes be used for in city management?
Well, I mean, cities have a maintenance cost, both in gold and in food. Mm-hmm. So taxes go paying that, of course. Then they can also be taken out from the by the governor or by somebody who has the power to do so. So there's that too. Of course.
Now, as far as taxes, how would we say, if I was a governor, how would I obtain the taxes? So example, I know taxes are based on food to feed the people that are there in the city, but is there a monetary value to those taxes? And how would I get those to the coffers outside of food?
Yeah, well, I mean, say for example, we have the docks, right? And whenever you take a trip from one dock to the other, you pay something to the sailors, which is actually money being taken out of the game, and you pay a tax to the governor, which can be different. There's always going to be a range of taxation that a governor can choose. So you cannot make a dock crazy expensive. But let's say that one travel from one dock to the other costs from 100 gold if it's close, to 1,000 to 500 if it's far. Just making random numbers, but you get the idea. Then the governor can also add a tax to that goes from 100 gold to 500 gold fixed, let's say, right? Tax for usage of the dock, and that's one way to get the money into the coffers. And there's others. I mean, sorry, I was playing with a bit of plastic.
That's all right.
There's ways. There's other ways, of course. I mean, you can put taxes on plots. Plots have maintenance. Part of it goes to the system. Part of it goes to the city, and you can put usage cost on some crafting stations. Renting bank space can have a price. There's a lot of ways that people just passing by and using the services of the city will actually give money to the city. And of course, I mean, other citizens will just give money. I mean, guild members or engaged citizens will give money to the coffers if just random people don't give enough with taxes.
Now, do you find, or do you have a plan and system where you know as a developer where your hotspots are going to be? Like you have an idea. Yeah. So Shadows of Vale, there's there's so many different places and many more points of interest to come into play. Will they have a higher taxation rate to keep the prestige to move up? And it kind of goes into where progression starts to take off. So the question that's here is does the city progression still have stages? Hamlet, village, town, city?
No, not really anymore. I mean, it still has ranks. Okay. But we got rid of those names. So before it used to be only 4 ranks. Now we want to make something a little more atomic. So we're going to have multiple ranks, which is likely just going to be a number. And let's say it goes from 1 to 20 or 1 to 30. And getting a new rank. Each rank requires a certain amount of prestige and a certain amount of citizens to be obtained. The highest ranks are more expensive than the lowest ones, so it's there are diminishing returns, right? It becomes harder and harder to gain ranks, and each time you gain a new rank, you get points to spend in the talent tree, which I guess was the next question, right?
Yeah. So if yes, the progression from one step to another, what happens in practice? What kind of player actions have to impact the progression? And then if no, how would that city development work then? So you kind of answered both of those in essence, but somebody actually in just on point question from chat is, and this does play a kind of a role in progression, I would assume. Taxes. Do I have to have taxes, or can I have a city run completely on complimentary? Hey, you got a great city. Here's some money. I stop in here a lot. Here's a donation. Can you turn that on and off, that functionality?
Yeah, you can have donations, but you can set all your taxes to 0. I mean, if you set all your taxes to 0, it means that you and the citizens of the town have to bring in money voluntarily, or even random people have to do it voluntarily.
Right. To keep it kind of moving forward.
Yeah, because I mean, as I said, each rank has a cost of maintenance in terms of gold and food. Okay. So the higher it is, the more of those you need. And if you don't put taxes, then people have to donate, of course. And I mean, we expect that anyway, governors will likely put some taxes. Minimal. But if you're living in a remote city where people don't really, you see, if you look at the map that I've sent, you see there are some cities that are located in remote areas, where it's not close to a hotspot, it's not close to a particularly significant resource node. So what do you do if you have a city there? Likely not many people are going to walk in there randomly by accident and use your crafting stations and so on. So it's going to be the citizens who have to provide the gold for maintenance.
All right. Now, there's kind of this question here is pretty cool. Can the land surrounding a town/city be controlled and managed not the mines and stuff, but the actual land for agriculture or something like that. So I'm assuming
Well,
where they have the field icons on the map,
yeah, exactly.
is that what that's going to
Yeah,
control?
you cannot just put cultivations anywhere. You have to own a resource node that's called fertile grounds, which is fields, meaning
Mm-hmm.
this short name in this map, and those are the places that are going to produce a lot of food. So that creates a lot of dynamics for commerce, right? So if you live somewhere in the mountains, very far away from any field, you're not going to have enough food to sustain the city. I mean, you can get some with hunting, of course, but it's going to be pretty tough. So the best thing you can do is you can create a trade route between your city and a city who has a lot of food, in abundance of food, because it controls one or more fertile grounds, resource nodes, and then you trade your stuff for their stuff.
Now, I'm assuming it's going to be a blanket statement, but if you want to dig a little deeper, that'd be great. If I'm on the demon world, it's sparse, it's Arabic, it's very sandy. I'm assuming most of it's going to be for hunting, not gathering. Is there going to be a way to do interstellar or interplanetary travel to start up trade routes from planet to planet? Where, say, I'm next to one that has 4 or 5 fields that I own, and I'm a hunter. I'm more of a gathering, a crafting style guild, ran by donations or by fees for service. Will I have the ability to set up trade routes from planet to planet for those who might need more?
Now, for now, we're not considering routes from planet to planet,
Okay.
mostly because it's say traveling to another planet is pretty complicated, and also the whole route system works with connection between cities in the same continent and so on. So it's likely going to be mostly continent related. I mean, the official trade routes, like the automatic ones, but you can technically trade. I mean, you can trade with players from
Mm-hmm.
other cities in other planets.
Okay.
By the way, it's not like we're going to make it impossible to run cities on Tartarus without bringing food from outside. There's going to be fertile grounds even on Tartarus, right?
Right.
Oases, they're going to exist.
Yeah, because if I'm going to be on Tartarus, I'm going to have a PvP city. It just goes with the whole mentality of it. Just the grime, the dirt, the just being evil. I mean, if you're going to be a demon, you might as well be a demon. You're not going to go around hugging people in cities, right?
Yeah, no, true.
I mean, you're not. I mean, you may hug them with your knife or something, but you're not necessarily going to hug them with your hands, right?
No, no.
And then the follow-up question, which is kind of a good one. I do like this one because it kind of digs a little deeper in fields or points of interest. But it says, will players be able to own plots of land on points of interests? In such as like fields or clay deposits? Like, could I actually own a clay deposit if I don't have a large town next to it?
No, 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 no. It's these resource nodes, like the clay deposit that you mentioned, are controlled by a town, right? It could be controlled by. There could be multiple towns that can own and maybe challenge each other and fight against each other for that specific resource node. But
Very
but
cool.
it's only going to be about towns. The personal plots are just scattered around. You've seen them, you've used them
Yeah.
so far. It's that they still exist, but they are not connected to resource nodes or conquests or anything like that. It's for people who want to be out of the competitive system in general and then over the social system. Just
Understood.
want to live on their
Just
own.
be themselves. Now, I noticed in the update for the June launch, can't wait, super excited, to be honest with you. There's going to be towns, and those towns, when connected, will have, as we've spoken before in the past, travel will be more efficient, faster speeds. Now, my other question would be, being the paved roads give you, say, let's just say number's sake, 25% more speed. And say if my town has a field node and a clade node next to it, will there be smaller, say 10% roads of speed travel? That's really bad grammar. A road with 10% speed boost on it, possibly, where they're just kind of like not paved, but say a dirt road to commerce?
Well, I mean, right now they don't exist yet, but yeah, it's very likely that we're going to fix up the roads that lead to those and have some with the movement bonus. Yeah.
Very nice. Now, I know we're going to have roads, and we're consistently discussing travel, points of interest. Now that you guys are going to bring, and I'm going to tie this into sieges for the next step, but it's an interim question because it's sort of kind of PvP-esque. Say, for instance, I'm in the shadows and I die. Full loot drop. I go back to either my home or my town, and let's just say I am across the map. I know that you're allowing guildmates or party mates to loot my body, but now that we have faster road travels, such as paved roads from city to city, will we have soon a mode of travel in like spells, whether it's gates or recall, or will we have something like horses coming soon?
Yeah, horses are coming, well, not in the next test, but we're trying to make them come as soon as possible, of course.
Of course.
Other than that, we want to really limit as much as possible fast travel. So docks, roads, those are going to be the things for now. We'll see. I mean, we're not completely against the possibility of having some very other forms of very limited fast travel. Because maybe if the community really needs that, really asks for that, if it's really like the big majority of the user base who wants that, we will have to do something for that, right?
Of course.
But the idea is not to have it, right? The idea is that moving and traveling is important.
And that's nice because it gets you to those taverns. It forces you to go across those cities. Whereas opposed, one of the things that I had, and we've talked about this in the past, is rune books, right? And then you had rune books, which turned into rune libraries, which then turned into no one actually going anywhere except those points of interest and no travel in between. So it does kind of take away from that perspective of stumbling across a new area or finding a new town that could be the next best thing. So I respect that and I like that. And most solutions to the fast travel are timed. Every 8 hours, every whatever, you get a quick gate to somewhere. That would be really neat to see. And of course, if it's based on a community, I think what I've seen, we've got a fair community, so I think it'd be really good. I will say though, the PvPers will complain quite a bit. I'm not saying I'm one of them who would, but quite possibly maybe be one of those. And as much as we say there's no drama in our lives, I think we create the most drama on the boards and in game is PvP. So yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Okay, cool. So let's move right into sieges now. This is really, really something new that we haven't covered yet. So I'm very excited to see this, to be part of this. And to start off, one of the great questions: how can I imagine town sieges to look? I mean, like, what is your description? How do you see it playing out? Is it going to be staged? Is it going to be, hey, we're very Shadowbane, we're gonna fight you in 8 hours and get ready? Or is it just let's go? What do you foresee that being?
Cool. Yeah, finally we can talk about sieges. It's going to be one of the most fun things. Yeah, it's definitely Shadowbane, right? It's Shadowbane-esque. So there's no. So I think somebody asked, like, can you be attacked anytime when you're offline and so on? No, absolutely not. So the way it's going to work is that if you want to lay a siege on city, you have, well, first of all, you have to pay, of course, a significant amount of gold and resources. So there's always that, right? So it's not, you cannot just throw a siege for no reason. But once you lay a siege, the governor or the delegate of the town who's under siege has 24 hours. I mean, first of all, anytime I say a number of hours or any kind of number, just be aware that it's subject to change.
Of course,
might change. It will likely change. I'm just giving you what we have planned now. So as I was saying, the defenders have 24 hours to choose a time slot during the day. During which they want the siege to happen. So let's say that you have a one time slot that is good for the EU, one for the US, and one for Asia, right? For China, Japan. And the defenders have the possibility to choose the one they prefer, and then 3 days after, 2 days after, 3 days after, the actual siege starts. Okay. So that's the way it works. And there are 2 hours of 3 days of preparation for the siege.
Oh, that's actually really nice to know. Now, when the siege happens, so we go through the time frame of the buildup, right? So I accumulate gold, I accumulate whether it's raw materials or heavy materials to buy into said siege, because I want to destroy the town that's there. Once that siege happens, is there a grace period where I can come in and say I'm sticking my stake in? This is now my town, or is that a possibility? Because I know you have the voting rules with governorship, but if I forcibly take over a town, how does that work to transition to me being the winning party and writing my history the way I want?
Yeah, so first of all, like you don't really want to destroy a city, you want to conquer it, like most
Okay.
of the time. So that's what you want to do, or anyway, have the other city become subject to you. So that's one thing. Like you don't have to take over the city when you conquer it. Like I'm talking about the leader of the attacking army, of course. Well, the attacker doesn't really have to take over the city and become the new governor. He can choose to do that, but he can also choose to let the governor, the existing governor, stay and the existing citizens stay, but just become loyal to you, right? So they will have to give you a portion of all their income, and a few other their town militia is going to become your town militia. There's a few things
Okay.
there which we can talk about later, I guess, but you don't really have to become the new governor. If you want to do that, like to become the new governor or make one of yours the new governor, you can do it, and then you can out the existing citizens
Now, do
and
you
make it your town.
do you see something playing out? Because I know there's a lot of crafters that I hang out with. I mean, a tremendous, which is very odd, but a tremendous amount of crafter gatherers that I've surrounded myself with over the games I've played over the years.
Yeah, sure.
And one of the things, Albion Online was one of them. We actually had a party or a city of only crafters that we hired out another guild to protect us for sieges. Now, when you were talking about a little earlier, is you can have a guild not necessarily run the town, but you can kind of pay homage to that guild. Is you foresee something like that taking place where I have my town of, say, let's just say 100 people, which would be really cool. I have my town of 100 people.
Okay.
We're all crafter gatherers. I mean, we're rocking it. We own that guild gold mine, and we're printing money, and now everyone wants it. And we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? Craft them to death? So now we've got to look for somebody to take over and hold arms for us. How does that play out, or how do you foresee that playing out as far as roles of protection for the cities against sieges?
Well, they're crafting them to that sounds actually sounds like a good idea. No, you can definitely, of course, consider that the sieges are not the number of people that can take part in the siege is not unlimited, right?
Okay.
So as I said, numbers are subject to change. Before now, we were thinking about 20 versus 20 in a siege for small cities, and 50 versus 50 in a siege for large cities.
Okay.
So there's not going to be big Zerg guilds that can actually conquer anything, putting in 300, 400 people in the siege, right?
Oh, nice.
And during the siege, the area of the city and the area surrounding the city becomes exclusive for people who signed up to the siege. So there's in the barracks in town and in the command tent of the attackers before the siege, right until the last moment, people can sign up. Let's say it's a siege for a big city, so it's a 50 versus 50. Get as many people as you can. I guess you should try to get to exactly 50. People from anywhere can sign up. Of course, the commander, the governor on one side, and the commander of the attackers on the other side can choose whether to whom to accept or not. But anybody in theory can sign up. So you can totally have your guild of crafters where nobody's able to do PvP, ask
Right.
another guild and have, say, a mercenary guild or any type of guild that has 50 people good at PvP, or maybe two different guilds, and
Right.
having them sign up for to protect your city, up to 50 of them if you're in a big city. Why not?
I like that because there are going to be people who want to craft. There are going to be people who are anti PvP. So it's really nice to know that you could reach out to other guilds, form alliances, and so forth, and that, which I like. And you kind of answered this question, which I'm happy about. It said, I want to know this as well. And it says, will it be like Albion style 5v5, 20v20, where only a selected few can join, but small guilds will have a chance against bigger guilds and Zergs? Now, touching on that already, do I need to alliance myself with a city, or do I actually have to be a part of the city, or is it like a true recruit? I send out a big OOC in the middle of the whole world. Hey, I need help, and then anybody can come and sign up. Or do you have to have some type of allegiance to the city?
No, I mean during the siege,
Yeah.
if you want external people, no, you just anybody can do it. I guess you can just say go on the forums and say, hey, I'm just anybody can sign up, come and have some fun, and but that's not going to work obviously in practice because coordination during a siege, both on the side of defenders and the defenders, is very very important. So if you just have, let's say it's a 20 versus 20 small city, that's more realistic for somebody just actually randomly
Just
calling for
do
help.
it, right?
And let's say you have five of yours on Discord and 15 other people randomly just taking part on your side, and that's not going to end up well.
Now, I mean, speaking crafting people to death, I would say I can picture crafting siege weapons, maybe. Are you going to be able to craft siege weapons on the perimeter?
Yes.
I like the eyes, so I'll let you take over from here.
Yes, you will be able. There's not going to be
Nice.
so much variety, just a couple. Maybe we can expand that in the future. But we kind of have to, because in a city you can create one set of walls. We have exactly to the sides if you can create just one circle of walls, or you're allowed to create multiple ones. But you're definitely going to as a owner of a city.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you know that Fracture is an isometric game, so we cannot have the cool place the catapult and shoot inside the city and look 1 kilometer away, the rock destroying stuff and killing people. You know, that just doesn't work in an isometric game.
Right.
Also, combat from on top of the wall to below the wall doesn't really work, right? Obviously, in an isometric game. So the way it's going to work is that if you are inside of a city, you can always come out, jump out, so to say, exit the gate. Attackers cannot enter unless they destroy. But during those hours before those couple of days or 3 days before the siege begins, attackers can build a fixed number of siege weapons.
Okay.
Right? The siege weapons, let's say trebuchet or catapult, they shoot towards the walls and they destroy the walls. The attackers can place them and build them anywhere they want. They cannot move them once the siege is started, and they can be destroyed by the defenders. So the defenders can launch an attack against one specific catapult or trebuchet and destroy it, and then the attackers can rebuild it, but that requires a lot of heavy materials, so it's a real mess, right?
Right.
But those and those will shoot at regular times. You have to provide supplies, but they will shoot, and then they will destroy the walls. So as I said, the defenders have a certain time, 1 hour, 2 hours, we'll see, to defend the city. When the time runs out, the attackers have lost, and the attackers have to destroy the town hall in the center of the city. So they have first to break the walls, and then there's going to be some towers that you have to destroy, up to 2 or 3 that the defenders can place in town. They have to be destroyed before the attackers can destroy the town hall. So there are some dynamics. Things are not going to play out always the same way.
Right.
But in order to reach those, you first have to destroy the walls, and the only way to destroy the walls is to these siege weapons. I mean, you can also do regular attacks that are going to damage the walls, but they have so many hit points that you basically need those siege weapons to destroy the walls. Particularly if they are stone walls, right? Wood walls, it's a little bit easier, but stone walls is going to be very hard without the siege weapons. And of course, if the defenders just launch successful, very well targeted raids against these the siege weapons of the attackers, and they manage to destroy all the siege weapons. Not saying that it's game over for the attackers, but it's going to be very hard to recover from that and actually complete the siege successfully.
Because that was my follow-up question, because once you're being attacked, you just kind of cower down and hope that your siege weapons hit theirs. But knowing that I can leave the building with, say, a group of, say, 10, 15 people of the 50, then I can launch out and hopefully take out a siege weapon to help counterattack the attack. So it's good to hear that's there. Now, are we talking thousands of hit points? Or are we talking? I mean, do you have that balancing out yet, or are you gonna? Do you have plans on doing a siege alpha test or a beta test where we have towns that are already built? We'll get 60, 70 people on, and then run test simulations to kind of get that data back quicker. Because I know how you've been running your alpha testing is very strategic. Get on, play, enjoy yourself, but here are the new things, knowing well off that everyone's gonna go, oh, new things, Christmas Day, let's play with that, just like Enchanting did. But I mean, are you going to have very targeted precision tests when we start talking about sieging and stuff?
No, I mean, if you were going to run an alpha test dedicated only to sieges, just to test that feature, no, I don't think so. No, we're going to test it ourselves. We could have a maybe selected group of testers trying that out before. Why not? But what's likely going to happen is that we're just going to put them live in a certain, in a specific new release, which is not going to be the next one, but the one after the next, Alpha 2 Test 4. Why not? It's definitely possible.
Yep.
And actually, I hope so. Sincerely hope so, because that's one of the coolest things about cities. So once that, we just release that in a new testing phase, and people can test it out. Maybe it's not going to work as well in the first testing phase because it's rough, but we will test it by ourselves enough to know it works. And we're talking about like tens of thousands of hit points for walls.
Okay.
That's the reason why you
really need that siege weapon to be doing that damage.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. That's a lot of information, and it's pertinent because I mean, if I'm thinking PvP, which I am, and which most guilds, knowing player cities are coming with siege, they're like, oh, how am I going to handle this? And knowing that it's tens of thousands and not just hundreds, you can change up how you would defend that. So that's really good to see that. Now, in here, this is kind of like a subsection in sieges, but it says, what's the difference between planets and or territory control when it's talking about sieging? So are sieges going to work differently on PvP, the demon world, or are they going to be slightly different on is it going to change dynamically between the three? Because if I'm in a non-PvP human world right now, can I do a siege? Does that affect the rule sets?
Well, the only non-PvP place is Arboreus.
Right.
So in there, you're not going to have sieges.
Okay.
But on Tartarus and Synthesia, it's going to be the same.
Okay. So, all right. So, I mean, okay. So that I guess is a follow-up question that I might have for it. It would be more political than strategical on Tartarus. So like Tartarus is just like, if I want to take it over, I take it over. But if I'm on Arboreus, it's going to be, I have to really do some crazy backwards deal, infiltrating, spy espionage to get into the ranks to kind of take over kind of thing. So it would almost be a completely different game.
If you have a free city and you can convince most of the citizens to make you the new governor, that's one way you can take over in Arboreus.
That's actually really cool because it brings different gameplay. It really does. Oh, wow. Okay. That's nice. Now,
but if the city is authoritarian, then you cannot take it over that way because the governor is just the governor.
We would just have to evacuate all the people and have his city go to waste, and he'll just quit or move on. All right. Now, it says, what possibilities, this is another subset of questions here. What possibilities do groups have to siege a town, and what's the benefit of it? Would we get loot? Now, example, if we siege with me and my group of, say, we do a medium city or a smaller city, we go in, we're successful, and we say, we don't want to take it over, but we would like, is there a barter system saying we'd like 10% of your resources? Is there any kind of trading in there, or do we automatically get some of the resources for just attacking and winning?
No, well, attacking, as I said, if you launch a conquest, then you can do what you want. I've replied before, like you can become the new governor, you can make them loyal to you and send you gold and resources automatically because they are your subjects. So that's one thing you can do. We are considering the possibility of not only having sieges that end in a conquest. So we will considering the possibility of declaring an attack that is not a siege. Well, there is not a siege that is not a conquest, but it's a raid. and having people in these raids, and they would not be able to actually conquer destroy the town hall and conquer the city, but they will be able to raid the warehouses and take away the resources. But the reason why we're not exactly sure is that if somebody declares this kind of raid, then it's very easy for the defenders to just empty out all the warehouses and everything, and just get rid of everything, and then the attackers get nothing.
Right. I can understand. I can see that being definitely a negative to abuse, because it could definitely become an abuse thing. Now, there's just something that you've touched on, and this you touched on with the difference between walls. But it says, does a city give bonuses to defenders when scaling if the city is in progression forward? So if it's out of, say, I'm not a newbie city anymore, I'm a well-established city, say, let's just say rank 10 or 15. Will I get a bonus to that defense, or would I have an extra siege weapon? What are your plans on giving those bonuses, if there will be, during a siege?
Well, as I said, cities have a tech 3. They called it talent 3 by mistake before. It's tech 3, and each rank gives you 1 point to spend on the tech 3, and eventually, I mean, you can unlock very cool features, right? And most of the city progression, aside from the very basic buildings like tavern or the bank and the town hall, which is always there, it's gated behind this tech 3. So Tech 3 includes a lot of options for offense and defense too. Also for territory control, right? So if you want to control more than one hotspot, one resource node, or more than one resource node, you have to put points in the Tech 3 in the direction that unlocks that specific thing. So unlocks the possibility to get one resource node, then spend more points to have the possibility to conquer a second node. And launching attacks to another city, it's possible. We don't have the whole tech 3 laid out, but it's perfectly possible that you're going to have to spend a couple points to be able to launch a siege against another city, and then there's going to be options to unlock specific buildings for offense and defense, have guards, and have those towers that I mentioned before. You get the idea.
So I have a tech tree as a person, or as a game. A game person in there, a race as my person. Do you plan on having something similar like Crowfall, like Crowfall, where my account has a tech tree, I have a sub tech tree for my one character out of the 4 or 5 I might have, and then my towns will have a tech tree? Is that what you're...
So the characters have a talent tree, right? So it's in the roadmap.
Yep.
I think I have actually a more updated image that I haven't put.
The newest one that you put out on the latest update for June has a new tech tree.
Yeah, exactly. I think I have a more updated version of that, which I haven't put it online yet. I forgot. Here it is. Let me see if I can send it to you. Can I upload an image on Twitch?
You cannot, but I can probably put it on afterwards.
Yeah, well, I can do it now actually. Picture upload.
Or you can send it to me inside of Discord. You can just DM it to me, and I can put it up later if you'd like. It's up to you.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I'm just doing it now.
Okay.
So
the tech tree to me, I really like, because I think that's where a lot of people, as a min-maxer, when it comes to, progression and stuff, as my character development, I really like to know that I could be sitting next to a warrior and have different spec talent tree, which would make me different than the warrior standing next to me. That to me seems to be very dynamic. And yeah, that's the new one you have out. No, it's not. That's actually different.
This is the version with all the nodes.
Oh wow!
With all the icons. So this is the player's talent tree that's coming in the next test. And well, I mean, it's there's, as I said, there's about 90, I think, nodes. Some nodes accept only 1 point. Some nodes accept more than 1 point. It works like you can create presets and then memorize them when you rest, just like the ability.
Oh,
so that's
okay.
the way it's going to work.
So if I need more of a healer style like Paladin, can I spec that way with a little bit of heals with some, like, does it look along the lines of that, and that's how that's used? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, the abilities are a different thing. Like you learn abilities from monsters, and you get you get them. You create a preset. When you rest, you memorize them. The talent tree makes some abilities or some modifiers of your character stronger. Right? That's what it does. So you can, let's say, you want to focus on making the damage dealt by your one-handed weapons better. You have a line for that. You have a couple nodes in the talent tree for that. Just an example. There are nodes for healing. There are nodes for pretty much anything. You can see that the whole tree is basically split into 6 different big branches, which are each one related to an attribute. So you can see that strength, dexterity, perception, charisma, and intelligence. You can see them in the center, right? So the strength one is red, and then the dexterity one is green, charisma is purple, intelligence is blue, constitution is orange, and perception is yellow. So those are in the center. And then there are also some sub branches which are a mix of 2 branches. So you can see, for example, between charisma and intelligence, there is another sub branch that has only 4 points, so it's smaller.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and you can, for now, we have about 60 points that you can obtain. You trade knowledge points for talent points, and up to 60. And you can create different presets, memorize them. If you want to create a character that is mostly focused on healing, you have talent points that are suitable for that. Mana regeneration, for example, lower mana cost is definitely something that you're going to pick for that.
I like that. I love trees. And then the tree, it looks nice too. So it's easy on the eyes. I like that it's color coded. It makes a lot more sense. So that's going to also help us, I would assume, with saves, because I know that our attributes are tied to certain saves also, where if I do more wisdom, it's intelligence, I believe. If I do intelligence, I get more abilities to memorize more skills. Are there anything in this tech tree here where that would give me maybe more points so I can mid-max less int but get more int from my tree?
Well, first of all, you have some nodes that also give you stat points, right? So look at them. I can tell you what they are. It's the ones with an arrow, small arrow pointing up. You can see them. They are in the big circle, right? And then there's also a second one you can see in each branch. So you can get one. Yeah, you can see, right? There's 2. So you can get up to 2 points in each statistic. Of course, the number of points that you have is limited, so you cannot buy a +1. I mean, you have to follow the order of, you know what talent tree works. I don't have to explain it to you. But yeah, you can get, if you want more memory, you can get up to 2 points of intelligence. Don't forget that you also have an advantage at 20 intelligence. So if you create a character at 20 natural points in any attribute as a bonus. So if you want so your character is focused on the strength and constitution, you would want, when you create it, to put 18 points on strength and 18 points on constitution, and then in the talent tree get up to 20 in each to get this big bonus. So there's that. I don't remember if in the tree there is something specifically for memory, but I can check that out right away.
Okay.
And now I've just opened the document that's called Tree, and I see all the details of trees in the game.
Very nice.
Definitely not the trees I was looking for. So
those are all your nice oak trees.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's not what I wanted. Let me see. Maybe it's called talent. Talents. Oh yeah, here it is. So memory. Let me look it up. Memory. There's nothing for memory specifically. Not here. And not there. There's nothing specific for memory. But as I said, you can increase your intelligence, and that gives you more memory.
By proxy gives you more memory specifically, yeah. Okay, that's really cool. Now, I know we went way off the trail of sieges, and I apologize. The minute you showed me this new diagram, I'm like, this is so great.
Oh yeah,
Because
awesome.
you can see it, right? So it's kind of a stimulant at that point. So I want to kind of come back to, we got a couple more questions, and then if you want, we can go back to that. I know Crow has been taking a lot of questions for us, which is really nice of him for some of the end. We're at about an hour and 5 minutes. I know we started a little late, but I want to honor that time. I know you got pizza, so I don't want to mess that up. So
we can have another convenience, don't worry.
Exactly. So, all right. So the next question would be: does the city give bonuses to defenders, which we talked about, and you said it will scale, which is really nice to have. But once a siege happens and we say have a bonus or don't have a bonus, and we may have a bonus for regeneration of the walls, does it regenerate or do we have to repair it?
No, you have to repair it.
Okay. So if I've got brick walls, I've got to all of a sudden amass tons of brick to repair those walls.
Yeah, but it's not a good idea. Like in general, what you want to do is destroy the catapults of the attackers way better than repairing your walls.
Right, and that does make sense because they just keep hitting you, so that's not good. Now, it says right here, which is nice, and I think we've covered this real quick, but if there's anything else you want to add, it says, what happens to the governors or the governance and the citizens of the city if they are defeated? So if I come in and I'm like, that's it, Genghis Khan, we're going to pillage, I'm going to take over, put my flag in, I can kick everybody out at that point, correct?
Yeah.
But at that point, do I have to okay, so if I go in and we take over the highest tier city, and I'm, for whatever reason, I crafted them to death, and I'm like, everybody out, how fast do my points or status of that city start to deteriorate that I have to quickly get people back in the town?
Very quickly, but consider that in general, the whole, I mean, you don't lose a city immediately, right?
Okay.
So if people leave, it deranks.
Okay.
So it's going to lose, let's say that it was ranked 25, which would be, for the current balancing, a very, very developed city, probably a large city, and it just drops to rank 5. Well, it's not that buildings just fall and disappear and so on. They just become unusable.
Oh, okay.
And the points assigned, of course, you used to have 25 points in your Tech 3, they become 5. So that's why things become unusable. But you have time to get new people. Just you're going to be crippled, but the city will still be partially functional.
Oh, that's so like a ghost town. That's really neat. Okay. So
Yeah.
The rule of thumb here is, folks, is don't make it Chernobyl. Like, you don't want to go in and do that. You want to keep your people happy so they stay. So that's good to know. I like that these checks and balances are there.
Yeah, I mean, I can consider. I guess that if it's a guild versus another guild, the attacking guild will just take over. You know, and that's it. But if it's something like a governor and his group against another governor, and maybe some people may decide, and it's not all about a guild. It's perfectly possible that the people of the conquered city will say, or a part of them, maybe a big portion will say, hey, we're cool with the new governor, we are loyal to you, we're good, can we stay? And then the conqueror can say, yeah, you can stay and just run the city.
Okay, that's I like that. I like that because for me, it's like it's funny. I always look to think of ways to abuse it, to know how to not, or how to fix it. So you don't know you don't know how to fix something unless it's been broke. So if it's not broke, you kind of have to, in your mind, break it, but then go, hey, maybe this could be a way that it could be abused to not have it happen. So it's this weird.
The whole system is really complex, and it's really we're kind of daring, like in terms of the whole democracy thing and some other things. The whole city management thing, I've never played a game, an MMORPG that's going to have this depth in terms of city management and the city evolution. So you have, of course, you have games that have cities where cities are important and territories are important. Albion Online, it's our most frequently mentioned competitor, but even the good old Shadowbane that we mentioned before, they had cities and they were very important. Other games are going to have cities, but the depth in the management of the city, from the fact that you need to have roads connected one to the other, and you have to place plots next to roads, and you have prestige, things, decorations raising prestige, lowering prestige, evolving buildings, and so on. This whole city management thing that you can find
Right.
in SimCity or in the Caesar series, or you know the games I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
City management games.
Yep.
That thing is I don't know of any other MMORPG that has that. And
I
we're going
know
to
Albion did what they did, but my personal experience with the Shadowbane that I play, and I played a tremendous amount. I really think that their city management was a great way to manage cities. And what I mean by that is like each thing had its own importance. It wasn't just like I have a territory, yay, I control portals. It was really like I'm putting this here because it fundamentally makes sense and it's needed. And by the way you're speaking with the Shadowbane kind of references, I really hope that that's really where it's going to go, because that made it really important. It wasn't just how many can I have, how big of a territory can I have, but this one that I do have is really important, so we invested into it.
Yeah. Well, in general, I mean, even in Albion, of course, cities are territories are very important. But there it's more about, I mean, from my own experience there, I haven't played in a while, but I have played. From my experience, it's more about having, making all those they're not called crafting stations, like the shops, the productive buildings, right? Ranking them up from rank 1 to rank 8, and having access to those resources. That's nice. That's important. It doesn't really have a city management. Like there's no actual city management in there. It's just about leveling up those buildings, and once they're leveled up, and protecting yourself from attacks with the sieges. They work in a completely different way, but that they have that whole part of competitive part, which is really cool. But there's no actual city management that could be compared to, as I said, SimCity, like I mentioned before. We have that, or we're soon going to have that, which is, I think, sets us apart. Also in terms of like effort required by the citizens and people controlling a city. So if you have this city and you want to grow this city, it's really important that you spend some time in there. And it's not going to be like Shadowbane, where I know it was really a thing to farm monsters PvE around the city to give all the junk to the city and all those dynamics. This is more like realistic, like in terms of maintaining buildings that decay, and lay out the city properly so that it can resist the siege, because it's important to have a good layout for the city, and control the influx of food and money to maintain it, and all that stuff, right? Controlling trade routes with other cities and so on. There's a lot of management there, and there's a lot of maintenance also, and work that you have to keep doing for your city, which sets us apart from the other games.
Which I like. So I'm gonna ask this because it's here. And I know the answer, but I just to kind of get it out in the ether. It's kind of it's funny. It says you were designing for solo play as well as groups. So would solo players be able to siege a city by themselves? Now, the last time I checked, I'm a complete badass. So yes, I'm going to craft my way through the city and then beat everybody up with my crafted walls, right? But on a serious, what is your idea? So that goes back to what I said was, if I'm a solo player and I have 1 or 2 friends, I could hire somebody to help siege a city if I could amass what I need to do the siege, correct?
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that, but it's really expensive, and it's crazy. Like you can recruit people, but then again, what are you doing? You're creating a temporary alliance to make yourself the governor of a city. Interesting, possible, but unrealistic. Like cities are a group content. Of course, if you just want to play alone, take your spot in the wilderness and just visit different cities, learn what you have to learn, progress your characters, do PvP, do whatever, just by yourself or with a friend. But if you want to access, say, the later stages of group progression, you need to become citizen of a city. And if you want to be governor, you need to have people supporting you and so on. It's not. There, as I said, Fractured is solo friendly in that you can progress your character up to the highest level up to the best gear possible and have all the abilities, unlock all the points in the talent tree, have the best equipment all by yourself. It's perfectly possible to do that in Fraction. Or just maybe if you have a friend or two, of course, it's even better. You get the idea. So the game is solo friendly, but cities are a social thing, are a group thing. They are not a solo thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the end of the world. I mean, so when I lay my head down on a pillow, like I think of MMOs, why would I log into an MMO to be completely soloist? I would go get my Nintendo Switch and go play, Mario or something. I am a soloist at heart, but I enjoy the performance with friends, right? So I like to go out, do my things, hunt, gather, whatever, kind of create content as I do as a soloist. But also at the same time, I like to go home and know that I have friends kind of at the tavern. But to be a true soloist in this game, I don't really know how much sense that makes. And I know a lot of people try to go, I'm going to be soloist because I work so hard. I come home, I have an hour or two to play. And it's just really hard to dynamically create or be part of something that's evolutionary. But when I come on for an hour or two, where's my place? So I think one of the concerns with social play as a soloist standpoint is, I guess the bigger question, and this is more of an existential kind of MMO question, how is it that a solo player in your world will do well with progression and be a true soloist? I mean, do you really see that happening? And if so, if there was a timeline where I get on with 5 friends, and I've proven this in some alphas, me and 6 friends get on and we wipe the planet, right? Because we consume it. Within 24 hours, we have all the skills. And I know there's a few points of interest, but as a solo player, you go fight a wisp, you're going to be running away or dead, because you have those interactions.
Yeah, but if before attacking a wisp, you get the right abilities from the Goblin Fire Shaman, then you kill the wisp.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, so you can do it. I mean, even today, like I've seen, there was one streamer that got all the abilities in the game, and he spent I don't remember exactly how many hours. I need to check on. I think you need to check on the private messages on Twitch what he said. So he said that it took
quite a few hours.
Yeah, he said 27 hours of playtime, 24 hours in live. Yeah, so he spends about 30 hours to complete his character.
That's not bad.
Total. But yeah, but he did, I mean, of course, spread over several days, and he did that. It was possible.
And what I like
possible.
about that though is when coming in knowing nothing though. One of the things that I think this day and age in developing a game or being a consumer of games in this day and age, I mean, I remember EverQuest playing and there were no maps. I mean, Alakazam came out and it was taboo to go there and look at maps, right? Because am I cheating? Is it? And so now you can go on YouTube and you can watch people, you can know, hey, to attack this, then this, then this, and then go fight a wisp. As opposed to somebody being completely oblivious of the game. They were walking by and they see the runes. Oh, cool, look at runes. And then what is this? Oh, I'm dead. Oh, now they get frustrated. So I like that you have these starter towns where it does kind of not force, but it in essence, it forces you to go, hey, there are people in this game. Be aware that you have this community that you can tap into. Don't be a soloist, but be a soloist caveat, right? Like play, and it's just, that's the dynamic of the community here too. It's so welcoming that people just want to help. So
there's a lot
I like that.
Our community is really welcoming. I mean, of course, once we get more, say, PvP groups and competition, there's going to be more aggression, and of course, it's not that the community on average will be a little less friendly because PvP focused players are more focused on competition, right? Not really on helping new players and so on. There are exceptions, of course, but on average, it's that way. But I expect the community is still going to be really nice on Fractured, particularly on Arboreus, where most of the nicest people, I assume, are going to end up there. I mean, you're also very nice, but you're also very PvP. But the super nice, super helpful people that just want to help the others and don't care about PvP, they're all going to move to Arboreus likely.
I plan on being the guy as if I'm stabbing you for PvP, hey, you should have done this after the fact that I killed you. Like, I'm going to help you after. I'm going to do what I need to do and then go, do you want to learn how not to have that done again? It's a very weird dynamic. It's very chaotic neutral. And I try to stay in that kind of realm of gameplay because it does make it fun. And most people, they really do align themselves with lawful or evil, and very few people you find kind of in the middle. And if we had more of those people, I think the gaming community as a whole will benefit a lot more, because you don't have that massive range in between of playstyles. So those are the last of the questions. We're at an hour and 20-ish. I know we started a couple minutes late.
Yeah.
Where do you look time-wise?
Yeah, but good. I think 120 was the correct length for a Q&A like this. Just be making it 2 hours or 3 hours is also going to be. I mean, so anyway, there's going to be few people watching the recording on YouTube, because nowadays it's hard to make people pay attention for 1 hour 20 or 1 hour 30.
Yep.
But if we make it 3 hours, then it's definitely guaranteed that everybody's going to be distracted or asleep by the end. So I think it's a good time.
Now, I do have a handful of stuff that's kind of popped up. If you got 5 or 10 minutes, we'll keep it to just that.
Let's do it fast.
Okay, so we've got some good ones. So I actually have a technical question, which we have actually never talked about. This question comes from C Short 1970. He says, specs. I know that you've made a reference to a 970 card, but how is this going to work for people with laptops? Are they going to need a beefy, like a ROG, or could they get along with kind of a basic Dell laptop? How do you feel, or have you done any testing?
Well, it's as I said, it's hard to tell. I mean, I have a laptop, but it says 1060 TX, so it's a pretty good one. I mean, if you have like a real, like if you only the integrated card without a dedicated GPU on your laptop, it's hard that you're going to be able to play Fracture, to be honest. Low settings,
That's fair.
Low settings you can do it. Very often there's these issues with laptop and we need to solve it anyway. You're out of the way, where it defaults to the integrated GPU if you have a double GPU, and it's happening to many people many people who have laptops in the game, which are a minority likely, that say, oh, this game is unplayable, I'm on low settings, and I'm having 40 FPS in low settings, and that's because it's using the integrated GPU instead of the dedicated GPU, but they don't know it. So we had one guy from French portal who played the game with using a laptop with integrated Intel GPU, Intel 400 HD 4000, sorry, that thing, and he was able to hit 60 FPS or close to 60 FPS on low settings.
Wow.
So. Yeah, I mean, it's an isometric game. We don't have stellar graphics. We still have rooms to optimize, but it's the optimization is already okay-ish, I think. So the game should be playable on low-end devices, because it's not going to be as.
I mean, I can tell you, I've got a stupid rig. I mean, it's dumb. I mean, it's not a potato like a laptop. And no offense to those that are on a laptop. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for asking those questions. But let's be honest, it's a potato. When you compare it to, a water-cooled, ridiculous, 2080 Ti streaming/gaming PC. That being said, when I was playing just this last alpha, in between all the alpha tests I've done with you up to now, every time you've done and squeaked out 3 to 4 or 5, so even the last optimization you did, I got 10 more frames. So you guys are definitely always continually optimizing. So I think, that's
what's your GPU?
My GPU is a GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. So top of the line, biggest one I've got.
2080. You guess you get like 400.
Well, yeah. But I also stream too, and I use my encoder to stream. So I need to get a secondary GPU, and I need to get. There's a lot of things that I need to do, but even taxing my system, it runs very, very well. And every time you upgrade,
you can stream full HD with a 970.
Yes.
It's fine.
So
you definitely don't need the 2080.
But I'm noticing that though. So my point that I'm saying is even on this, I'm noticing the frame rate changes that you've done, because I do play them on lower settings on purpose because a lot of people don't have my rig. So I want to test those out to see how it looks. And I'll log in first. I'll do it low settings and see how the game looks. And then when you do a upgrade, I'll go back and see how it looks again. And I'm getting anywhere from 5 to 10 FPS every time you update. So that's a good news for people who have mid to low end and even potatoes they're playing on. So that's good. I've got, let's just hit 3 more. They'll be really easy ones, I'm hoping. One of these was, which I actually like to hear. This was from Doc. He asks, Doc Holly known, he says, can every city upgrade to its highest tier, or are there only so many slots per major cities? Because I know you're going to have 2 to 3 style cities. So where do you see that? Will the major cities go up to 25? Or will all of them go to 25 with their own set of max plots and so forth?
I mean, you mean in terms of like rank?
Yes.
Yeah. No. Well, the scale of rank is always the same. Okay. So you're going to have, I mean, small city plots. Where small cities are never going to be able to reach the same ranks that large cities can reach. So let's say that the small ones, if you have a lot of citizens and you optimize very well the space and the prestige and all, maybe can get up to rank 20, and the large ones can get up to rank 30.
Okay, that's fair. I have one that about 7 people have asked, and it wasn't an OCD through me thing until it was brought up that it was OCD, and when I looked a little deeper. On the talent tree, you have nodes where they cross-section. They're split in half if you look at it. They're blank. Is that because it's going to fill in once I get to that point, colorization and show? Like, what's the point of that void?
And no, that's only because we didn't know how to make it.
Okay.
How to do that. So those nodes have nothing, right? It's just that it's just a point where you pass through to get to the updates in between different attributes. Those nodes do nothing, and I know that they look a little out of place, but that's well,
I thought because you haven't skilled up to that outer ring, that once you hit that outer ring, it would fill up with half blue, and then if you then train the charisma, it would go blue and purple kind of together, fill that up, and then it would allow you to move into the other nodes. That's what I thought. But then again, I look at things differently.
Oh, that's actually a very good idea. Yes, that's what they're going to do.
That's what they're going to do, guys.
Guys, write that down.
And then finally, this is like a 7-part question, but it's a very good question. You can go as deep as you'd like, because I know you've got to go, and we do thank you for all of this. But this one's from, and I'm going to mess his name up, but VYR Vandalus. He asks, and it's kind of like a multi-question here. It says, can NPC guards be hired? If so, can they be upgraded in items/training? Guard trainings level 1, 2, and 3, and can their armor be upgraded? Like, if we're gonna hire guards, can we beef our guards up? And does that matter upon rank?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a colleague, actually an art director in the chat, that is saying, "Hey, that's already like that." Thank you, Michele, for spoiling our excitement, and Oxford excitement for having a great idea.
Darn it! I thought I was onto something here.
Some people just want to crash parties, I guess.
That's okay. Some people are dream killers.
So that being said, guards, you will be able to hire them. They're going to, I mean, as I said, cities are protected from PvP by default unless you authorize that, so guards don't really fight there. But what they do is they help in sieges, right? They fight against attackers. They're not going to be a big thing or going to make a massive difference, but they can make some difference. Of course, having NPCs helping you is nice. And well, there's going to be ranks for the guards too. Of course, like there's ranks for most of the buildings, and so you'll be able to unlock better guards, more powerful ones in the talent tree, in the tech tree of the city as governor, and recruit them. Of course, they have a cost in maintenance cost, food cost. And
that was my follow-up question, because I was going to assume if everything has a cost, I would assume they would have to have a cost also, especially if they're going to be helping you in sieges. And then lastly, because she's so awesome, Carolette said, she goes, "What can I do if my city mates stop playing?" Are those things examples? So if I sign up and if I want to go out and spend $1 million and buy 400 accounts, and I have all those accounts log in slowly but surely and join my city, do you have to have active play? So if my friends don't play anymore, but they still quote unquote have an active account, how are you going to combat that? Logging in?
Well, I mean, you have to maintain the city anyway.
Okay.
Cities have a maintenance cost.
Okay.
So if you have, I mean, doing it all by yourself, alone, maintaining a city, impossible.
I just was curious because I mean, you see a lot of games who, if their buy-ins around 2025 US, then most people who do not have time but have money will find ways to, I don't want to say cheat the system, but maybe fix it in their behalf. And so, possibly, I know, that's important with where you got to feed your people, you have to feed the town, you have to have your resources. So that's important too. So that's good to know. There's a lot of checks and balances that you've added since our last talk, at least that you've opened up with. And I think, if I look at what we talked about last Q&A to the Q&A now, there's a lot more light that's been shedded on the player cities. And I think you just need to release it next month. Like now, not next month, like tomorrow. Say, guys, guess what? Surprise!
We can't wait. But wait! I do have a surprise, actually.
Oh, all right, let's go. What do we got?
Surprise for governors. Surprise for aristocrats and everyone who has a Kickstarter pack. We're going to put a version of the map that I've linked before, like the map of Mir, on our website before the test begins. And you are going to be able to choose your cities and have people sign up for those cities before the testing phase begins, so that once it begins, those cities are already assigned to you and the other accounts that decided to support you. So there's going to be the whole, it's not going to be like, okay, I have a governor pack, so I get this city and it's mine, period, even if nobody supports me. No, you're going to have to choose it. And if it's a small city, have at least other 4 people supporting you and following you in that city. But you're going to be able to start the game with your city already claimed, and sort of like Chronicles of Illyria, but with an actual game. That's the thing. So
that was a little burn, and I like it. No, that's cool. Okay, so you'll have the ability to preempt and go in. So guys, that lets you know if you do have the packs. Be on the lookout for that. You guys want to make sure that you get your town so we can start creating the content. Get in there. It's funny because I come from a tester's perspective when we're in alpha. Like beta's going to be more me just relaxing and playing, but. I'm very happy to hear the news. So huge surprise, and thank you for that. So we'll keep a look on that. How many more days in countdown till we go live? Are you going to launch it on a weekday? Or are you going to launch it on a weekend? What are your tentative plans for launch for the next phase of testing?
It's June, but it's really hard to tell where. I mean, this next week we're going to have the first version of city functioning, right? Claiming a city, listing up, building stuff, roads, blah blah, and so on. We're finishing that. We're really close. Of course, there's a lot of stuff to add, so it's really hard. And then we're not only making cities, right? You can see in the roadmap that we have a lot of stuff coming. So there's talent tree, but there's also a lot of quality of life changes, direct trading between players, death and resurrection, like real death and resurrection, losing your equipment, looting players. There's a lot of stuff coming. So, by the way, we also have a system of militias that is coming related to cities, but not only, where you can join a militia in a city and have open PvP anywhere without the criminal system against other militias if you want. Some sort of elective, voluntary PvP that we're adding on top of the criminal system. So that's not a replacement; it's an addition here. So somebody's looking at me through the door.
Time.
I guess it's dinner time. But yes, so we have a lot of stuff coming, and so it's hard to tell exactly when. We were also kind of exploring the possibility to have an open weekend before the next test.
Nice.
So maybe in the end of May, but it's just an option. We'll see. I mean, it's not something that we have to do. We might do, but we don't. It's not necessary. We have other very interesting news to. So I've already given you
So much.
one big one about the governors claiming towns. There's another big one which I'm not going to tell you. It's coming very soon though. You will
Okay.
know. So to bring your friends playing the game to play the game with you in the next test. So there's a lot of stuff coming.
Good.
And let's say if we do the open test in the end of May, then it could be the end of June for the actual Alpha 2 Test 3. If
Okay.
we don't do the open test, then maybe it's the middle of June.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, fantastic. I don't want to keep you and the wife waiting much longer. I know it's dinner time for you. We really thank you, as we always do. Thank you guys for tuning in and saying that. Jacopo, as always, it's a pleasure. You always bring tons and tons of fun, and it's never a dull moment when we do this. So I appreciate it. Now, is there anything you want to leave us with? Maybe what you said you wouldn't tell us, and you don't have to. But we'll see you on the next one. Now, do you have any idea what you want to touch base on the next one? Whether we do an open.
To be honest, no, I don't.
Well, that's good. So stay tuned.
Not really. I really have to think about it because we already had Q&As during the Kickstarter.
Yep.
So back then we already touched on planets and travel, PvP, criminal system. There's we had a few. So there's stuff that it's maybe a little outdated, but 80% still valid. So
Okay.
it's hard. It's hard to come up with the next topic. We'll have to see. Maybe we can have a poll and ask the community. Why not?
Yeah, we can do that. Stay tuned to the forums. I'll let you go if you want to say your goodbyes.
Well, as usual, thank you for being here. We had fewer people, but I'm still glad that I can see to see a lot of names that were there last times too, and big names in the community that have been following us for 2 years or longer. So that's great. So if you've been with us for a long time, if you're new, thank you for being here. And well, see you in the next test, which is hopefully as soon as possible in June. And it's going to be, we're really excited. We really can't wait to let you play with cities and also starting our own Dynamite Studio City. Why not? We really can't wait. We really can't wait. So thank you and see you soon. Bye bye.
Pretty much. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Alrighty. Enjoy, man.
Bye bye.
Later, bud.